Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our January meeting, the ordinary meeting of Council. Looks like we've got a fairly full gallery this evening, which is great. So I declare the meeting open at 6:08. To begin, the public is advised that it is Council policy to record the proceedings of meetings of Council on digital media to assist in the preparation of minutes and to ensure that a true and accurate account of debate and discussions of meetings is available. This audio recording is authorised by the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulations 2015. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Tomagina people, and to pay our respect to those that have passed before us, their history and their culture. Item 1 is record of attendance. Item 2, confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. Could I please have a mover for the confirmation of these minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Could I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Edwards. Are there any amendments to these minutes that have been circulated? No discussion. I put those minutes. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried unanimously. Declarations of interest. Point 3. Are there any councillors and agenda items which we need to note for declarations of interest, and staff if they have any declarations of interest? None this evening. Point 4, councillors' announcements and report. Announcements by the Mayor, I have none this evening. The Mayor's communication, and the recommendation is that the Council note my communications. So could I have a mover for that, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Seconder?
I'll second that.
Councillor Deputy Mayor Edwards. Are there any questions regarding this communications list? If there are no questions, no comments, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried unanimously. 4.3, reports by delegates. There are none. 4.4, notification of council workshops. There is a recommendation that the council note the following workshops. Could I have a mover for that particular item, please? Thank you, Councillor Bramage. Could I have a seconder, please?
Seconded.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Are there any comments or discussion regarding this motion, please? No discussion, no comments, no questions, so I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried unanimously. We now come to point 5, which is the public questions and statements. 5.1, responses to public questions taken on notice from the previous meeting. 5.1.1, Mr Hutchison, meeting procedures, posed a question and the officers have provided a response. 5.2, public questions received in writing. Mr Powell, land sale. He has asked his question regarding Waratah and the officers have replied. A second question regarding the Waratah Community Board, and the council officers have replied as well. 5.3, public questions without notice and public statements received in writing, or public statements without notice. The Council encourages community participation in its meetings through the opportunity for public questions and statements. Consistent with Council's core values, councillors and staff strive to ensure all people are treated with respect and integrity. We expect our residents and ratepayers to apply similar standards in their dealings with Council. As Mayor, it is my responsibility to maintain the orderly conduct of council meetings and to determine whether a question or statement is out of order due to the use of offensive, objectionable or defamatory expressions. I ask members of the public to show proper consideration and courtesy with their comments. So, Mr Ewington, you have a statement. Would you like to come forward? Is that right?
me all? Yep. Good. Statement 1. Does the Waratah Wynyard Council have good understanding of the role within the community, within the environment, within the community? I'd like to talk about a registered weed, slender thistle. The slender thistle is declared weed by the state government. Slender thistle is a spiny, erect herb that commonly grows to between 60 and 100 centimetres in height. Slender thistle is a serious weed in most agricultural community. It is particularly troublesome in grazing areas to invade pastures and crops and neglected areas. The roles of the biosecurity and the council to prevent the spread of the thistles from the municipality must be prevented. Reduce eradication and restriction of the weed. And put in place a weed management program. The requirements for the landowner: prevent the spread of the plant to neighbouring properties within 50 metres of property boundaries. Control the weed within 50 metres of waterways. It is an offence against section 13-3 of the Act to fail to comply with the requirements notice issued by an inspector. A person who fails to comply with this notice issues an infringement notice of $1,448. A further fine of $905 for each day during which the offence continues. I have two properties, one at Studders Road, Morlear, and one at Newington's Road, Flowerdale. My background is I've been born on a farm and at a very early age got a quick understanding of what weeds are like and spreading of it. So throughout my working life I had a good understanding. 7 years ago, my parents' farm was sold to a farmer, a large cropping man, a large landowner, and he showed no respect for the land or the environment or the neighbour of the community. I have another small landowner at Studders Road who has no understanding of weeds and no control issues of maintaining the weeds. So each year I am required to go through biosecurity to get them to approach these landowners to tackle the weeds. Of course, at this stage the thistles at full flower, and by the time action is taken they're upon seeding. They take a halfway attitude in controlling the weed, which is a very concern to me because I try and look after the neighbours in both communities, areas, and control their spreading of their weeds as well, because they don't have the manpower or the machinery to tackle the weed. In the last 7 years, the issues cost me $9,000 so far in trying to contain this weed, and I feel being left. Feel that I haven't got the full support of the biosecurity or the council staff in trying to make these landowners tackle the problem, because I'm trying to prevent a weed from spreading through the community. And I've outlaid $9,000 over 7 years to try and do it, and I'm just getting a little bit burnt out. So what I'm trying to ask is, the weed could have been contained if it was well managed, and at the moment this season's coming by and the weed is spreaded along the boundary of the Pass Highway and neighbouring property against the fence line and has not been tackled at those stages, which is disappointing. I'd like to tackle another one, foxglove, of course. Last meeting the statement was made that it wasn't recognised noxious weed, so no action is taken, which is disappointing because in the last 3 to 4 years I've been trying to inform the council how serious it is. I have been tackling the weed on my property and the neighbouring properties in Pages Road, and currently I've spent $9,000 over the 3 years to try and contain it. It's a noxious weed in my books, and it spreads so outrageous. So what I'm trying to say, I'm trying to do things for the community and myself, but I don't seem to get any support from the powers that be to make this a better community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ewington.
Madam Chairman, I've got questions.
You have a question?
Two. Do you want
Thank
me
you.
now or later?
You ask your questions now. Thank you.
Okay. I live in a community at Flowerday where there's a close community of 20 landowners, and they're small block owners and, of course, farmland. I have attempted twice now, late December and early January, to provide to contact the compliance officer and discuss these issues. And on 2 occasions now, I have got from the front counter about this matter. So I would like the management to tell me what is the correct process to arrange a meeting with the compliance officer and discuss my issues.
Thank you, Mr. Summers. If you could respond, please.
Yep, through you, Mayor. The compliance officer's actually been away unwell December and January, so we'll make arrangements to meet with Mr. Ewington while he's away. So,
Question 2, Madam Chairman. As you realise, cats are a real problem in the community, and the government now are starting to put things in place to try and contain and control the spread of the animal, the domestic and in the feral situation. What action is the council put in place to manage the domestic cats and the feral cats in the community to protect the environment for the animals and bird life in the community?
through you, Mayor, the role of this council, like many others in cat management, is education and information provision. That's actually a coordinated exercise with the Cradle Coast Authority. I believe similar exists with a northern and southern group of similar nature. There is a website of educational resources and legislation that all 3 of the regional groups provide and distribute to those councils. The other information council provides is the location of the nearest cat management facility, which I believe is the RSPCA run facility in Devonport, but it doesn't currently have an active role in cat management beyond information and education.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ewington. Mr. Hutchison, would you like to come forward, please? I understand you have questions and a statement, is that correct?
Are we live video recording tonight? Or are we having technical difficulties?
I haven't been advised of any technical difficulties tonight, so we can assume that we're live.
All right, I'll get straight to the point. River Road Consulting has been contracted to undertake work for council. It's stated that council isn't an appropriate forum for undertaking an investigation, but I would argue that it's simply a persistent line of questions, and definition is important, because for council to suggest that I am or have been running an investigation, to then use that as a mechanism to say questions about a certain topic aren't appropriate and there are too many questions, and I'm using too many of council's precious resources to answer those questions. It's a bit of a foundation built on sand. So for the record, I'm a member of the public asking questions of a council that I pay rates to. I currently live in the municipality and have done for the majority of my life. I'm operating within the procedures to ask questions on a topic, and find it very concerning that a topic can become taboo to question. If I ensure that I do not repeat the questions, I believe the council needs to answer those questions with something more than, oh, we don't talk about that. So, on that note, my first question, it stated at the December meeting minutes and agenda that all transactions above $250,000 are required to be approved by council, and all tenders and contracts entered above $100,000 are publicly disclosed through the quarterly organisational performance information report and council's annual report. What would be the barrier to disclosing transactions of $100,000 and below, or is there? And if there aren't any barriers, can council please advise how much River Road Consulting was contracted for as a measure of accountability.
Thank you for that question. We will take that one on notice. Thank you, Mr. Hutchison.
Thank you. There were some questions that weren't responded to in my December questions with a notice, and that was which month and if possible the date that River Road Consulting commenced its services with Council with supporting documentation, B, the amount for this contract, which I've already asked, the exact detail of the work employed to do, D, why the work was so urgent that the General Manager decided to employ consultants, E, on what days River Road Consulting currently works for Council, F, a record of all of the dates that River Road Consulting has accessed the Council chambers to undertake its work for Council, and G, if any of the work involves having access to Council's physical or digital records, and if so, what files River Road Consulting has access to. If the General Manager could respond to that either now or take it on notice.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchison. We will take that those 7 questions on notice.
All right. I'll just move into my statement. I just want to look at the latter half of 2022 because I believe that Council has undertaken a few practices to silence me from asking questions and making statements, and I base that on the fact that my statements have been rejected and removed from meeting minutes. A section of public statements and questions went missing from the September's Council meeting video recording. Council has had technical difficulties in regards to video recordings for both November and December. My questions were prevented from being asked at the November meeting. At various meetings, I've been interrupted by the Mayor and other councillors. I've been told that I cannot ask questions about a certain topic following the responses received in the December agenda. I've also been told by the General Manager in Council documents that my presentations are conspiracy theories. You can call it a conspiracy theory, but everywhere I look, there seems to be a few patterns emerging. I don't have conclusive evidence of this. But the other time I've suggested that the connection between Paul West and Shane Crawford needs to be scrutinised by councillors was at the Tasmanian Planning Commission LPS hearing. And who was that by? It was by Paul West in his opening response to the delegates. I don't want to entertain the possibilities, but if I'm joining information that I've found and asking, what about this, I expect councillors to consider that and take that on board. It's your job to scrutinise your employees. So I feel like if I'm hitting some nerves with certain councillors and possibly the General Manager, I have to pose the question, why is this happening? So I'll wait to see the response to my questions that I've asked tonight. And if I don't get a response, and I'm not certain that I will, I would just like to call into account some of the councillors' recent videos, introductory videos. So, Mayor Dunyam, you stated, I want people to be heard, to make it a great place that it can be and will be in the future. Councillor Edwards, you stated, I love being your voice for the community. I bring high standards, strong values and a lot of integrity. Councillor Roberts, you stated that you believe in a community first approach. Councillor Courtney, you have a passion for transparency in the local government system and you offer a strong voice of integrity at the council table. Councillor Bramich, you stated that your aim for the ratepayers is to be their voice, to get the best dollar value we can for the ratepayers and listen to the community. Councillor Johnson, you stated you're ready to learn and you're ready to listen. Well, these statements may or may not include me in your considerations, but if you want me to be heard, Mayor Dunyam, please don't interrupt me. If you want to be my voice, Councillor Edwards, please start asking some questions without notice. If you want to put the community first, Councillor Roberts, please consider my views and questions. If you want transparency, Councillor Courtney, please probe this council with questions that I cannot. If you want best dollar value, Councillor Bramich, please question why this council is hiring consultants without being willing to justify that spending to the public. If you are ready to learn and listen, Councillor Johnson, please re-listen to the council meetings prior to your election and bring my concerns to the table. If you believe in processes, Councillor Raw, please help this council follow its own processes and procedures. And if you want respect, Councillor Hyland, please consider acting respectfully and earn my respect through positive actions. In the officer's response to public questions take on notice from the last meeting, 5.1.1, tonight's agenda, it clearly states that councillors can only raise a point of order in relation to councillors. So I'd just like to let it be known that councillors, in my reading of the meeting procedures policy, cannot make a point of order in relation to public statements or questions. Only the Mayor can ask a member of the public to stop. And the end response states that in relation to public question time, 31A, Part 7 states a council is to determine any other procedures to be followed in respect of public question time at any ordinary council meeting. So this is not a justification for councillors to make a point of order at council meetings in respect to the public. And now that I've made that known to all councillors, I expect that this will be the end of interjections during my questions and statement time. The only consideration or caveat for that is from the Mayor. So Mayor, do you wish to allow councillors to raise points of order during question time, public question time of this council meeting? And do you need to adjourn question time to make a decision as a council or list as a future workshop item?
Thank you for your question, Mr. Hutchison. I'll repeat what I read earlier. As Mayor, it is my responsibility to maintain the orderly conduct of council meetings and to determine whether a question or statement is out of order due to use of offensive, objectionable or defamatory expressions. So it is my responsibility. Should a point of order be raised by a councillor against a member of the public for untoward numbers of questions, and I bring up the point that at the last meeting you presented 41 questions to be answered. You made allegations against the General Manager, and I believe that in asking for this matter to be terminated, that is an end of the matter. I think that was a very fair request of you because you have asked the same questions over and over, and those questions have been answered. However, you are not happy with the responses that you are receiving from the officers, and those officers are working for the people of this community just as every single councillor is. It is not just you who sits at that table as a community member and has something to say or a question to ask. There are many, many others who do so as well, and we do afford the same commitment to their voice as we do to you. And I do ask again that members of the public show proper consideration and courtesy in their comments. And I underline that. Please, if you are courteous to us, then we will maintain that courtesy back to you. But please don't treat us as if we are just there for you. We are not. We are there for everybody. So please remember that. And if I interjected during your speaking, that was because you were making allegations and comments that needed to be stopped there and then. And that is my role.
I'll take those thoughts. I will draw you back to the question. Thank you for the response. And that is, are councillors permitted to make points of order when public asking questions or making statements? Is that a yes or a no?
If a councillor, I'm not going to give you a yes or no, I'm going to explain to you. If a councillor feels that comments or questions have been untoward in any sense, they have a right to defend not just themselves but also the council itself. And calling a point of order, I may not accept that point of order at the time. However, I will call a halt to any untoward questions or statements that are being made that are derogatory to any of this council and the staff.
Okay, so I'd suggest that you adjust your meeting procedure policies to reflect that better and discuss that as a council. But that's all I'm going to say there. When you call for a decision on a motion, Mayor, during the past 2 meetings, you've consistently said, all those in favour, please say aye, followed by a statement carried unanimously, or carried. Yet you didn't call for any councillors who didn't support the motion. And I'm not sure if any other councillors or staff have picked up on that process, that divergence from process. So, Mayor, will you change that practice and ask councillors if they are against a motion for every particular item, regardless of whether they've spoken to it? So, for example, all those in favour, please say aye, raise your hands, then followed by all those against, please say aye, raise your hands.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchison. Yes, I certainly will.
Thank you. And my final comment is just in relation to the November council meeting, which may have got a bit tense. Councillor Bramich said, I know we're not supposed to make comment, but disgusting comment to make that we have been keeping secrets in relation to me at 30 minutes and 20 seconds to 30 minutes and 40 seconds. I felt like that was not treating me fairly or with respect. And Mayor Dunyam, when you permit this behaviour, you essentially encourage councillors, it was probably a bit of a grey area, but tend towards breaching a code of conduct. So I guess my questions are for Councillor Bramich. Would you like to respond to my concerns that you've not treated me fairly or with respect with that comment?
Councillor Bramich, do you wish to respond to that question?
With your permission, Mrs. Mayor, Madam Mayor, whatever. Well, Mr. Hutchison, I did make them comments to you, and I'm close to making them again. The way you treat staff, councillors, and that sort of thing, it's beyond a joke. The man hours that's gone into answering your questions is unreal. And you're right, you've got different questions, but they're the same thing all the time.
How many hours exactly? Do you know?
I don't know how many hours, but I'm
So
sure.
how can you make that allegation?
Big pardon?
How can you make that allegation? If it's unreal, what is unreal?
You are. And look, I won't shy that I made that comment. I won't, and I certainly will not apologise for it. Code of conduct was mentioned. If you feel that you need to do a code of conduct against me, you do it. I'm quite happy for that.
Well, I don't want to. I just want to hear what your thoughts are.
Well, that's my thoughts.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bramich. Mr. Hutchison, I will remind you that you are within your rights to submit codes of conduct. You can go to the local government division with your complaints about this council and any particular item that you wish to bring up with them, and the Ombudsman. And I do suggest that you do follow that procedure, because then you will probably get greater satisfaction in finding out just what is the best way to deal with the issues that you are bringing to our council table every month.
Okay, thanks. So I guess my question is for you, Councillor Bramich, around getting the best value for ratepayer dollar, which has been your election campaign slogan for at least 2 elections, probably more. If you don't know what council is spending its money on and how much it's spending and for what purpose, and if councillors are privy to such information, but how is the public supposed to know if we're getting best value if the council does not release those details? So if you want to call what I call secrets something else to help you sleep at night, I'd prefer that you actually consider that what I'm trying to do is actually keep the council accountable which you don't seem interested in providing that information to me. You seem on trying to suggest that my comments are out of line. So if you cannot prove that you're getting best value for the ratepayer's dollar with evidence from council documents that I've requested, then I don't think that's I guess healthy that you're saying one thing but not actually doing what you've committed to in your election and what you were elected on. So in that sense, if you're not going to change, then I suggest you resign because you're not upholding that commitment.
Mr. Hutchison, I will interject. You are making allegations again. Do you think that is really fair to Councillor Bramage for the allegations that you are making? You're not presenting any evidence. You're asking for Councillor Bramage to present evidence. You did say earlier that you had evidence. You haven't presented any. So again, I suggest to you that you submit a code of conduct, you go to the local government division, or you go to the Ombudsman. At least do the right thing so that we are held accountable as you are wanting us to do.
I thought the public question time is a way of public participation and accountability. So I guess as a member of community, Councillor Bramage, I request that you represent me, regardless of what you think of me or how disgusting you might think my comments have been. You still must fulfil your role that you were elected to do. In the almost 4 years that I've been coming to council, you met with me once to listen to my views on a single issue, essentially ignored my concerns and voted to dispose of the pre-Lina Hall, selling a community hall for $30,000, which I don't think was best value for the ratepayer dollar. I've left that issue in the past. You have not represented me, and in my view, didn't get good value for that particular decision. So I asked that you consider representing all of the ratepayers, not just the ones that might agree with you, and you take on the concerns. I'm happy to meet and discuss, and if you can air any concerns with me privately, that's fine. I'm not going to do a code of conduct on you. I think we can be better than that. We can actually enter into dialogue, but I don't think in a public forum we can go down to this making essentially slanderous and embarrassing me. I'm trying to keep you accountable. Maybe I don't go about it exactly how you want to, but that's for me to decide and the mayor to determine, not for you to decide. I hope you can understand that.
Mr. Hutchison, I think that you have been given fair go this evening, and I ask that you wind it up. Thank you.
I get go to respond to any of that, Mayor, or not?
Councillor Bramage, no comments, please.
I'd love to.
Okay, at 6:39, we are going into the Planning Authority. I remind councillors that you are no longer acting as councillors, but members of a planning authority. We have 6.1 public questions without notice on they are relating to planning matters and public statements. And I have two. One from Mr. Finnis and the other one from Mr. Gardner. So, Mr. Finnis, would you like to come forward, please?
Yes, can you hear me? Yeah, there's a development that's just about to be approved, or if not already approved, at 264 Port Road, Boat Harbour. I live adjacent to that property, 266. It's been my primary home for 7 years, and it will be again in the future. It's a traditional shack that's just a single story, low level, and in keeping with the traditional Boat Harbour shacks. As everybody knows, Boat Harbour's changed out of all recognition in recent years. Bigger and bigger developments have gone forward, and higher and higher and out to the boundaries, and all of a sudden it's directly affecting me because this development at 264 right next door, it's going to be right up to the boundary. It's going to take I did it work out the percentage, but I haven't got it off on the top of my head now, but it's a huge percentage of the tiny little block, and there's this huge house going to be built there. And it all comes down to the word precedence and discretion from the planning that can override anything. The word discretion seems to blow everything away. And then there's the precedence. Just because a precedence has been happening there doesn't mean it's right. And in my objection, that seems to be completely ignored, is that that's the way it is. That's the future. And I don't agree with it because I just feel that Boat Harbour is an iconic place that belongs to all Tasmanians. I know it's not Port Arthur, but it's a little seaside village, and it can still be saved if common sense prevails. Building these huge monoliths a la Gold Coast on these tiny little blocks is ridiculous. You walk along the beach and what used to be quite beautiful ambience is blown away, and it's time to say enough's enough. And this little shack that I live in, there's going to be a 12-metre wall 2 metres away from me, right up to the boundary. God only knows how the construction's going to happen without impacting on me, and I just think it's ridiculous how it's been approved. I just can't believe it, and so I'm just here. I know it's sort of a forlorn hope that common sense can prevail because it seems to be a done deal. So I'd just like to say to council that that's how I feel about Boat Harbour going forward, and yeah, that's all I'd like to say. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Mr. Gardner.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me, councillors? Good. My name's John Gardner. I live in Port Road. I've owned my home there for over 30 years. Since I retired, it's been my principal place of residence. It's in a group of 5. There's a group of 5 blocks, and they're right opposite where the Caravan Park shop used to be, for those of you that can remember the good days of the Caravan Park. So it's a fairly unique little area. Lots of room for us to get in and out so we can drive in and drive out and not reverse in and reverse out. It's good. The average of the other 4 blocks, the square metre average of the other 4 blocks is 401 square metres. Number 264 that this application is for is 284 square metres. So it's 30% smaller than all of the other blocks. What I'm saying is, it's not our fault his block is smaller. That is not our fault. He is trying to put what to me is a massive home on that block. 284 square metres, to give you an idea, is just a little bit bigger than a double tennis court. That's the size of it. And it includes a significant setback from the water. He's trying to build a 3-storey high house with 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 2 or 3 living areas, and 3 decks. The total square meterage, and the total square meterage is, I can't find it, wouldn't it? The total square meterage is, I think, 287 square metres. That's the total square meterage. The footprint is 145 square metres. Planning is asking you to approve a footprint of 145 square metres. Your scheme allows for a 30% footprint. 30% is 82 square metres. Planning is asking you to, they're recommending that you approve a footprint that's 70% more than the average of the other four. All of the others, all of the four of us, our average is 30% site coverage. That's what we average. This guy wants 51%. We've got, so planning is suggesting to you that you approve a 70% greater footprint than the average of the other four, and a 70% greater footprint than what your scheme permits. The house will have the impact, it will be the highest house from the road and from the beach at Boat Harbour, the highest house. All of the other houses, the average is the average frontage is 11 square metres on those 5 blocks. One's a bit smaller. The average is 11 square metres. The other four average a 7 metre house on an 11 metre block. Fine, plenty of room. This plan, the planning's trying to make you accept, is a 10 metre house on an 11 metre block. That's what it is. On my side, it's 1.09 metres from my side boundary, my northern boundary. On the other side, on Mr. Finesse's side, it's on his boundary. From my house is on 2 levels. From my living area of my house, I will have a blank wall longer than that wall and more than twice as high. Just imagine that. It's more than 18 metres long and it's more than 9 metres high. That's how big it is. It's enormous. Well, I've got no objection to someone demolishing an old house and building a new one. I applaud it. That's progress. That's what happens. But it should be sympathetic with Boat Harbour. The first one to build, inverted commas, a new house in Boat Harbour was Dale and Cheryl Elphingston. In 2008, they built the first new house. They excavated over 6 metres. So the house sits beautifully and snugly in the block. So from the beach and from the road, it doesn't have this enormous bulk. Every other house that's been built along the beach since 2008, and I've built 2 or 3 of them, have all excavated. What I'm suggesting is that if we were all prepared to spend money, and it's significant cost, and excavate so that the house has got a less bulk about it, why can't he? Why can't he excavate? All the rest of us did. We all paid for it. Why can't he? Either that or take 1 floor off the house. What he's trying to do, in my opinion, at the moment, is put a milking herd of 100 head on a 5-acre block. That's what he's trying to do. It just won't fit. It's just too big. As I said, I've got no objection to anyone building there. There will be issues with access, because access is limited. There will be issues with trying to build on a boundary. When I was working, I was a builder. I understand all those issues. They can probably be overcome. But the sheer bulk of the building is too much. I recommend to the planning committee and the council committee, I think you're a planning committee now, and a minute ago you were councillors. I recommend that this project in its current form be not approved, and that significant work be done on trying to reduce the bulk. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner. That now brings us to item 6.3, the demolition of existing dwelling and outbuilding a new replacement dwelling located at 264 Port Road, Boat Harbour. Note, planning authority members, that there are 8 representations, and I'm going to ask for a mover of the recommendation before us.
Oh, sorry, you want to move before questions?
Yes, please. Could I have a mover, please?
I'll move as per the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Edwards. Councillor Hyland, would you like to open the debate? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Well, as the planning authority, when we get our agenda, you start to read all about it, get a feel for it. And one of the things that I usually do is go down to the representations. It usually gives you a bit of an indication of what you got. And the first representation, I actually felt like closing my agenda and not going any further, because you've all sat here tonight and witnessed what's come out of the public gallery, and the last paragraph in this first representation was a real slant at the council staff. And in case anyone hasn't had a look at it, it accused the staff of being in cahoots with the applicant and assisting the applicant to with words so that they could deal with the representations. That's just totally disgusting. And that's the sort of stuff that we continually have to deal with. Now, we rely on our staff for qualified advice, because there's not one town planner sitting around this council table, so you've got to take qualified advice in a situation like this. And reading through, and we're talking about the bulk, and until such time, given the drawings that we're sort of looking at, there doesn't appear to be too much extra bulk other than a little bit of a skyline, what you can see, if that gives you an indication. But all the houses that have been built, as you said, from the Elphinstons down, I reckon it's a tremendous job that's been done by our planning staff, because you can actually drive down Port Road, and to anybody new out of the area would actually think that row of houses along there would probably be one level all the way along, unless, of course, they went down on the beach and saw otherwise. I think that's a real credit to what they've done, and obviously done it all with the planning scheme, and because everything only goes as far as what the planning scheme will allow. So there's nothing untoward there. The shading issue sort of got me a little bit. There's quite a few complaints in there about different shadows and whatever. And lo and behold, in the first one, the issue was shadow, which is the block, I think, on the western side. Now, when, according to the planner's comments, when they've done their little bit of work, which they do, and work the radius arc of which way the sun rises and falls, it was too far out of range to even cast a shadow on the block. That's how I read it, and that's how it's pretty clear. So when you're getting all those sort of things that are not really factual, you sort of wonder really what is going on. So you just go back to accepting mainly what goes up against the scheme is permitted. So I don't really have any issues, and I'll be supporting the motion, and I'd like other councillors to do the same.
Thank you, Councillor Highland. Councillor Bramich, did you have some questions?
Yeah, you got me to bed. Time got a lolly in my mouth, but I'll have a go. Directed to the town planner, was there any conversation in the beginnings about excavation and lowering it down with the applicant? Or that didn't come up?
Excuse me. I should have had a lolly in my mouth. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Oh, sorry, Miss Mayor. Getting used to the new. We don't provide suggestions to how someone can comply. We just identify what they need to comply with in the scheme. It's then up to the designers to work out how they may be best be able to apply. It should be pointed out that excavation is included as part of the proposal, so they are digging in to minimise impact as much as they can with that design. I don't think increased excavation, so this was submitted, went to advertising, representations received, planners did their assessment. We provided advice that it was unlikely to receive support at an officer level to come to council due to it having bulk and shadowing concerns. They've gone away and addressed that by reducing the size of the top floor, so the first floor. The original design had a fairly large area as a void for internal light. They've taken away a fair chunk of that to reduce then the first floor height, which then steps the development down better than what was shown before, rather than a big bulk, and then allows for more light to the property to the southeast. And so then, based on those changes, we believe that it now complies with the requirements of the planning scheme.
Councillor Bramage, were you finished with your questions, or Deputy Mayor Edwards?
I just want to. I've read all the representations, and I feel that they've all been answered and justified, sort of thing. I am a bit worried about the car parking issue, but I think that's just will come down to the area and neighbouring and all that. A question that I had was to Ashley. Is it general practice, if a DA looks like refusal, to talk to the developer after it's firstly advertised and the representations start coming through? What is the process, or what do you do after that?
Through you, Mayor. Yes, if it's at a point where it's unlikely to be supported at an officer level, when we're preparing our report, we will contact the developer, essentially to give them options. Do they want to proceed with the application as is, and they believe that they do comply with the scheme? Do they wish to address the concerns that have been raised by ourselves or items that have been raised in the representations? Or they just withdraw altogether and, go away and come back in a few years' time, or whatever it might be, under a new scheme or something like that. So essentially those options are discussed with the applicant, and they're then armed with the ability to make a decision about how they'd like their application to proceed.
Thank you for that response. Are there any... Councillor Bramage, you're going to ask another question?
No, I'm going to talk to the motion.
I need to ask, first of all, is there anyone who wishes to speak against the motion? Councillor Bramage, you wish to speak?
Yeah, thank you. Look, as a planning authority, I can sympathise with what we heard tonight, but I'm not qualified to go against our planning advice. But I understand what was said tonight. So for them reasons, I've got to support the motion. Because because I can't say to you guys, well, I don't meet this, I don't meet that, but I do hear what you just talked about. So I've got to support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bramage. Councillor Roberts.
I just want to second what Councillor Bramage said. We do empathise with the situation, but as the acting planning authority, we do have to go. We cannot go against our own recommendation in a way, as Gary says. We'll back our planning authority. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Raw.
As a new councillor, I find and understand perfectly, but find moving into this planning space as a very interesting place to be, particularly when you come from wanting to represent community and things like that, because in this planning space we can't do that. Looking through the documents today very carefully, 500 pages of documents, and reading them and trying to understand them, and I believe I do, it is complex, and we have to make the decision around the planning and the planning restraints, or whatever they are, or the planning process. That's what we have to do as councillors, and so the direction of where we have to go is really significant around this. We know where we have to go and we know how we have to vote. So through, my question would be, maybe this isn't the place to ask your questions around getting this through in your way that you want to get it through, and what is the process for people after their planning applications turned down or whatever. What's the process for these people now if they want to move ahead with achieving what they want to achieve?
Through you, Mayor. I'm not sure if I understood the first part of the question, so I'll address the second part. Based on any discretionary application, whether it's made by council or by delegation, the applicant, and in this case representatives, have appeal rights after a decision is made. So they have 14 days to make an appeal to the Tasmanian Appeals Tribunal, as they call now, TASCAT, if they feel that the decision has erred in any way. So if it were to be refused, you would think that the applicant would have the ability to appeal, or they could appeal conditions of a decision, or if it's approved, you'd have representatives that have the ability to appeal that decision. So those parties, either side of the equation, have the ability to appeal a decision that's made by council.
Thank you for that. Does that answer your question, Councillor Raw?
Yes, it does. I think basically I was asking, yes, that question. The planning parameters are there, and we have, from everything that's been presented, a particular way that we're going to have to vote on that. And so I was just asking, what do people do if they're unhappy with that? And I think you've answered my question. There is a process if people are unhappy.
Yeah. Thank you.
Just one further aspect of that. So applicant and also representatives are written to after the decision is made to advise of what that decision is, and then there's details as to what their rights are after that decision has been made as well. So they are all contacted after a decision has been made to give them that opportunity to appeal.
Thank you very much. So there is opportunity for appeal. Councillor Courtney.
Yeah, I'm going to say that I am going to support the motion, obviously, because I have to look at it, and this is unfortunate because I completely understand where you're coming from. I don't believe in overshadowing, but there's no legislation that really deals with overshadowing of solar panels. We haven't really caught up with where the world's gone on overshadowing and privacy and that sort of thing. And the problem is that, what you said, Mr. Finesse, about just because it's been done before, it isn't a reasonable justification to do it again. You are absolutely right, and I'm 100% on your side there. The unfortunate thing is, in these planning authority sessions, what we need to look at as councillors is whether, if I make a decision here tonight and we all agree and we override our planner, can we legally justify that in the planning commission? Because otherwise all the ratepayers are going to pay for the lawyers for us as councillors to override our planning officer. And discretionary is a bit of a fallacy, because if they're meeting all the conditions, then there's no reason that councillors legally have an obligation to not agree with their planning officer. So unfortunately, while I totally agree with where you're coming from, and I think it's inconsiderate what the developer's doing by encroaching on that privacy on that line, as a planning authority, I can't justify legally going against the planning officer in this situation, because I think that if it goes to the Planning Appeals Tribunal, that the position of council will be supported. So I can't go against this motion tonight. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. Are there any more comments from the the Planning Authority? Councillor Hyland, would you like to sum up and close?
No, thanks, Madam Mayor. I think we're right. No one spoke against it.
Okay. All right, I'm going to put the motion. So all those in favour, please raise your hands. Councillor Edwards, Councillor Bramich, Councillor Courtney, Councillor Raw, Councillor Hyland, Councillor Johnson and Councillor Roberts and myself. No one has voted against this particular motion, so I pass that unanimously.
Thank you, Mayor. Can we be excused now?
Yes, you may. Thank you for your attendance. If I could close the Planning Authority at 7:06, please. Thank you. We come to point 7, which is matters raised by councillors, responses to councillor 7.1, responses to councillor questions taken on notice from the previous meeting. And Councillor Courtney, your question regarding Foxglove, you've been given a response. We have not received any questions in writing. Councillor questions without notice. Are there any questions from the councillors? Councillor Courtney.
3 questions tonight. The first one is, a member of the public has asked me whether we could have a conversation as a council around changing the date of our Australia Day celebrations. Just wondering whether we can have that conversation, whether we could bring that to a workshop. So obviously you can get back to me on that one.
Through you, Mayor, we can certainly list that for a workshop discussion. I think we can state that now. Yeah.
Question 2 was, I note in the agenda that we received on Wednesday, there's a letter there to the Mayor in December 2022, and it's a discussion about the res zones. Now, Councillor Roberts and I went down and spoke to the state government, the people that were coming to talk to our area about res zones. And I've got to say that some of the conversation, I have little red flags. I note that in the communication to council, it says that there will be stakeholder reference groups which will allow the communities to participate in the selection of a first res, and that we should be very excited. Is that because the state government has decided we are going to be a res zone? Because it also notes that it can provide new generation to coincide with the commissioning of the first Marinus cable. I'm concerned that we're trying to get public buy-in on a res zone so we can use public money to put a transmission line in that will benefit Marinus and private enterprises coming into the industry. And I don't know what's in it for our community to go ahead with that. So the correspondence to the council is some sort of an announcement. I'd just like to know whether that is a statement that we are a res zone, or whether we are still going to have these communications with our community about that first.
Thank you for that question. Mr. GM, if you...
I'm just bringing the item up, if I may. I haven't got the letter in front of me, Councillor Courtney, but my understanding is that there's further investigations to be undertaken before that res zone, if you like, a renewable energy zone for those people that are the terminology is yet to be finalised, but this area has been, I guess, shortlisted for that further investigation. So, from memory, since that letter was received, we haven't heard anything further about consultation sessions or next steps and so forth. So clearly, there's some information we need to bring forward when it comes forward across our desks. But I'll have a further read in a second, but my understanding or recollection is that this area has been identified for further investigation.
Thank you. Councillor Courtney, number 3.
Yep, number 3. So number 3 is probably one of the main reasons I ran for council, and that's about transparency and accountability. I asked last meeting about our whistleblower protection, and I thank council for the response that there is a protection under public declarations or public disclosure using the government's Public Disclosure Act, and that our policy is pretty much in line with that, with just a few tweaks around the edges. What I'd like to know is specifically what protects a whistleblower in this council from unfair dismissal in that policy.
I don't think I'm going to be able to answer that one, but Mr. GM.
Through you, Madam Mayor, sort of under the existing policy, what protects from unfair dismissal? Well, I guess the obvious there's the unfair dismissal laws that are in place that apply federally, I guess. So that's the overarching principles, if you like, under Fair Work Act and so forth. As to what's specifically in this policy, I would have to have a look. There's probably, and take that on notice. There's I think the policy is 30 odd pages or more from memory. So whether or not it specifically references, to be honest, we have very few occasions when we reference this document. It is used infrequently. If it certainly hasn't been used in my time at council, so I'd need to go back and check that content to give you a very clear and articulate response.
Thank you, Mr. GM, and thank you, Councillor Courtney. They're very good questions, and I believe that they should all be answered. So thank you for bringing them up this evening. Are there any more questions without notice, please? So, Councillor Roberts.
Just a quick question about the grass, the side of Murchison, Mount Hicks, Lewis Street and Goldie Street, that Councillor Bramage kindly brought up at workshop. Obviously, a few of us have been contacted about that. I was just wondering if we have an update for the public about where that's at.
Thank you.
Through me, a good question, Councillor Roberts. Thank you for following that up. I think what our intent is over the next couple of days is to put some social media posts out around, I guess, our mowing program and what's the plan for the next month. So the public then are aware of, I guess, the order in which we'll be addressing the slashing program over the next 3 to 4 weeks. So that's our intent at this stage in order to communicate. Yes, good point. And just to clarify that not all of those roads that were mentioned there are our responsibility. Some of those are state roads, if you like, and state roads. So there's some roads that will be ours that absolutely we need to manage and slash. Others are the responsibility of the state. So it's important information when you get some of that questions as well.
Is that all, Councillor Roberts, or?
Couple more, if that's all right, Mayor Dunham.
Thank you.
Look, I just quickly want to follow up with that with Shane. Our Works Parks crew do an amazing job. It's 3,531 square kilometres, so quite often it might seem that something's been overlooked, but our staff do a wonderful job. So another thing I'm following up about is fresh development, the Powerhouse Power Station walk at Waratah. The bridge has collapsed. Obviously, the citizens are concerned down there, so obviously a small, tiny bridge. I just wondered if we do have any contingencies for that.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we were made aware late last week around the Powerhouse walk and some of the challenges. I think it's important to note that the bridge in question that has failed is not a council bridge, so it's not a council asset. That's the first component. The walk itself is not on council land. So we need to work through, I guess, with the community and conveying some of that information so it's very clear around what council's response may or may not be in these circumstances. So I think that's the important part in terms of clarifying those responsibilities around who should fix these walks in these circumstances.
Thank you, Mr. GM. Councillor Roberts, do you have another question?
Just another one that I know Gary was onto as well was the Bogue sign. Obviously, the GM has been in touch with us about members of the public reaching out to us about certain things, and I just wondered if there is a statement that anyone can make to the public so that it's covered. Thank you.
Through Mayor, I guess there are a number of road signs that attract particular attention from locals, and Bogue's Road sign is one. It is stolen almost as soon as it is replaced, and there are a number of others that are exactly the same. Names that have a little more meaning than others or a little bit provocative tend to be the target of vandalism quite a bit. So in this case, yes, the road sign has been removed. We will replace once notified. But again, longer term, there's some discussions around the frequency of that replacement and what, if any, are some other solutions. But certainly we have and we will continue to replace that road sign as it's, and the public just need to continue to report signs as they go missing.
Thank you for that response. Is that the end of your questions, Councillor Roberts?
Thank you, Mayor.
Are there any more questions from councillors this evening? Okay, so we will move on to 8.8, which is notice of motion. We haven't received any. Point 9, reports of officers and committees, the draft cemetery strategy. Could I have a mover for this particular recommendation, please?
So moved.
Sorry, I missed that. Was that you, Councillor Courtney? And second?
Seconded.
Councillor Roberts. Councillor Courtney, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, I think it's good that we're actually looking at a strategy around our cemeteries, given how much land is going to be required if we just keep doing the same old thing that we've always done. So I think it's a great thing that we're looking at it, because it makes sense to not just keep allocating land in that area. So it's a good thing that we're doing this.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. And reading the news this week, some cemeteries are so packed that they just can't take any more of the deceased, which must be really quite distressing for families. Okay, so is there anyone else who would like to make a comment about this particular strategy? Councillor Hyland.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, just the fact that it's going out for community consultation, and so we hope to get a good bit of feedback from the community, and we'll go from there.
Yes, thank you for that. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. It is important that we do share those strategies with the community so that we get that feedback. Deputy Mayor Edwards.
Yeah, just saying what Kevin said, that it's a draft and it's over 4 weeks, and hopefully the community can, give us their recommendations or ideas towards it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Courtney, did you want to close the debate, or just we shall leave it? Okay, so I will put the motion. Could I have indication of who supports this motion? So Deputy Mayor Edwards, Councillor Bramich, Councillor Courtney, Councillor Raw, Councillor Hyland, Councillor Johnson and Councillor Roberts and myself. It is passed unanimously. Thank you. 9.2, community conversations. A very interesting motion. Councillor Courtney.
So moved.
Thank you.
Yeah, second that.
Seconded by Councillor Bramich. Councillor Courtney, would you like to open any discussion or debate, please?
While I think these community conversations have been valuable, and it was something that I wanted on the agenda myself, that we go out there and talk to the public, I think they'd be a lot more valuable if the community started coming along in greater numbers, because sometimes we've gone to community conversations and there's been 5 councillors and 1 community member. So I know that we're going to try and look at changing the procedures up a bit, changing the times, that sort of thing, to try and get more people there. But I'd just like this to make a call out to people in the community. We're having these conversations so that you don't have to go on social media and put a complaint somewhere where no one can see it. Come to the community conversations and talk to your councillors. Talk to them about what your issues are there, because that's what we're there for.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Are there any comments from any other councillor, please? Councillor Roberts?
I just want to commend the councillors for starting this. This is one of my favourite things that council are doing. Is it's as small as it seems, to actually get out in person and meet the constituents is really important. While there is some negativity about perhaps council not getting out in the community, this shows that they are actually making the attempt. So much like the cemetery, I'd encourage people to participate in that consultation, and I would highly encourage everyone to get along to these and actually meet your local government representative.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Deputy Mayor Edwards.
I love community conversations, and I always talk it up. So, yeah, it's a time where people can come in an informal setting, and then they can, it's a great community engagement where people can talk and have great conversations to improve things or to give ideas around the community and to meet us as well.
Thank you for that. Councillor Bramage.
Thank you, Madam Deputy. Yeah, look, I can't wait for these to happen, and I encourage every member in the gallery to come along and see that councillors do listen and have got concerns and try to fix situations if they can. I encourage us all to do that, and anyone that's listening to this on live stream or whatever you want to call it, it's a great little get together, not formal or anything like that. And I just encourage everyone to come along and have a talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bramage. Councillor Highland.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, it's not just only the councillors that the public can have access to, and it's just one of the best opportunities to have that one-on-one conversation. It's senior staff, all staff. Sometimes there's finance, engineering, planning. It's your best opportunity just to get a one-on-one in a corner and casual conversation. And I just don't know why some of these grandstanders don't come along and take advantage of that.
Thank you, Councillor Highland. They are quite an enjoyable pastime, actually, meeting these people and hearing their comments. Sometimes they're not so positive, but quite often they're very, very supportive of what we do. So I'm glad that this motion has come forward. So I'm going to ask all of you to determine whether you support the motion or not. So all those in favour, please say aye. Anyone against? No one's against. I pass the motion unanimously. Thank you. 9.3, Management of Foxglove Update.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Could I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Edwards. Councillor Courtney, would you like to open the discussion, please?
Not so much of a discussion. I'm relieved that the government has now made a decision which makes it easier for council to make a decision on what they can do about Foxglove. It's unfortunate, I'm sorry, Mr Ewington, that the state government has come back and said, and I use their words, it will not be declared a pest under the Biosecurity Act. Obviously that makes it very hard for us to get funding to do anything around that, or to allocate funding to do anything around Foxglove. Obviously this is just information for noting, but I would take this opportunity to say perhaps now talk to the state government about getting that weed listed, because I would suspect the only reason it's not being listed is because then you have to fund doing something about it. So sorry we can't do anything for you, but I wish you the best of luck with chasing state government up on trying to get that included.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Are there any further comments? Councillor Roberts?
I actually want to credit Ken Ewington for this, honestly. I appreciate every time you come along. Things like this are important. If we did nothing about it, it would overrun us. To have people like you, Ken, that are actually pushing it, I appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Are there any further comments from the floor? Councillor Hyland.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, it's not that the issue is not important to council. We've got a lot of important issues, and it's just how you prioritise those. Now, from what my understanding of the reading, staff are in consultation with the government department, and soon as they come back with a few answers, I think council intends to work through it. Is that right, Mr. Chair?
Through you, Mayor, if I may, yeah, I had intended to clarify. I think we've got a paragraph in the report to say that we'll write to the government. We have done that. And just to paraphrase, essentially that letter is around asking the government to fast track or to move quickly on the education and awareness program initiative that they indicated as part of their program. So we've asked them to move and resource those programs as much as they can and move on that quickly.
Thank you, Mr. GM. Are there any further comments? Are there any speakers against this motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Deputy Mayor Edwards, Councillor Bramich, Councillor Courtney, Councillor Raw, Councillor Hyland, Councillor Johnson and Councillor Roberts and myself unanimously passed. Thank you. 9.4, reduction of speed limit on Ballast Pit Road, Wynyard. There is a recommendation before you. Could I have a mover of this motion, please? Councillor
moved.
Courtney, could I have a seconder, please?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Courtney, would you like to open the debate?
I don't have any debate over it. I think that the suggestion that we thought that perhaps that needed to be reviewed has now been validated by the fact that the Commissioner has come back and said that yes, that should be made 80. So I think that we've made a good recommendation and it's come back in support. So I don't think there needs to be a lot of debate over it.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Deputy Mayor Edwards.
Can I move an amendment, please?
Yeah. Yes, Deputy Mayor.
So I'll just read out my amendment.
Thank you.
Yep. That council note the information regarding the speed limit on Ballast Pit Road, and A, notify the impacted stakeholders of council's intent to request a review of the speed limit, and B, should no objectionable feedback be received from stakeholders, request the Transport Commission to review the speed limit.
Could I have a seconder for this amended motion, please?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Councillor Hyland has seconded that. Would you like to
talk.
Discuss, please?
Yeah. I just feel like I am fully in support of it going to the Transport Commission to review the speed limit and to bring it in with the other roads in that vicinity. What I noted in the recommendation was that the community had not been contacted or know of what was going to happen, and I feel that to show transparency and openness, I felt that the stakeholders needed to be notified first to know what was going on and have the opportunity to give feedback if they felt they needed to.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Edwards. Are there any further comments, or would Councillor like to speak against this amended motion? Councillor Courtney.
Just a question. Is that part of the process anyway? I thought that was part of the process that we would have notified the people on that road.
Through me, no, it hasn't been undertaken.
Sorry, my question was, but that is what would normally happen? So that's what would happen here?
No, not necessarily. So should the motion go through as was written, my understanding is the request, if you like, to review the speed limit would go directly to the Transport Commission. No.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Are there any further comments? Councillor Bramich.
Thank you, Mayor. I support the amendment. but I'd like to go a little bit further than Battle Spit Road. I think all our country roads need a review from the Transport Department or the Commission, whatever you want to call them. It is downright ridiculous the different speeds that we've got in our municipality on these roads. I did see something the other day with the figures of deaths on our roads, most of them on our country roads. Whether that was in Tasmania or Australia, I'm not sure. Reservoir Drive is a classic example. You go up there, 80, then you get on the worst part of the road, 100. Come on. We've got to get the Commission or the Transport Department, whoever you want to call them again, to fix this problem and make it consistent. Circular Head had a comment the other day I read somewhere, they got the same issue down there. And it's about time we made a noise, not just on Battle Spit Road, but on all the roads. So I don't know how we can, Mr. GM, I'll take some lead from you. How can we combine that or what, or am I over the top?
Through me, I think the issue you raised, Councillor Bramich, is clearly broader than the matter we've got in front of us tonight. Agree a discussion on that topic would be absolutely worthwhile. We have some service level reviews coming up in the near future around roads, so that's probably the opportune time to have that discussion in the coming months.
Thank you for your input. I might disagree with you, and I don't do this very often. I believe with conversations should happen now, not in a few months' time. I believe that to be now. When you drive around and see these different speed limits on the roads, you think to yourself, what's going on here, you know? But I guess I'll go along with what majority say, but I'd like to see it happen ASAP.
Through me, if I'll just respond. In order to make a decision, council has to have obviously qualified advice and information in front of them to be able to inform a decision, and that's what you don't have tonight. So the information the point you raise, albeit very valid, we don't have the data here to be able to inform the remaining councillors to help them vote one way or the other in relation to that particular matter.
Yeah, thanks very much for that. I'm a little bit crabby tonight, so excuse me, please.
Thank you, Councillor Bramich, and I do congratulate you on wanting to bring in consistency in the speed on our country roads, and I look forward to more information that you can provide and possibly a motion at a later meeting. Thank you. We have an amended motion before us, and so I'm going to ask for the councillors. Councillor Courtney, are you wishing to say something else?
Happy to second the amended motion.
Yeah. Thank you. You can third it then. Thanks, Councillor Courtney. Yes, we are ready to vote, and we're voting on the amendment. So if you could please raise your hands if you're in favour of the amendment. Deputy Mayor Edwards, Councillor Bramich, Councillor Courtney, Councillor Raw, Councillor Hyland, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Roberts and myself. The amended motion is passed unanimously. Okay, and we have to vote again. Okay, so now we have passed that amended motion. That now becomes the motion. So, do I call for more comments? Or, yeah. Are there any more comments on this particular motion? Okay, I'm going to put the motion. Please show your hands if you're in favour of this motion. So, Deputy Mayor Edwards, Councillor Bramich, Councillor Courtney, Councillor Raw, Councillor Hyland, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Roberts and myself. Passed unanimously. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Edwards, for your amendment. 9.5, our risk management policy review. There is a recommendation before you, and the council is asked to adopt the risk management policy and framework as presented. Could I have a mover for this motion, please?
So moved.
Councillor Bramage. Could I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Councillor Bramage, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, all good. We've covered these at workshops and that, so I'm quite happy.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments from the floor? Councillor Roberts.
Again, I just want to credit the staff. It's progressive. I like what we're doing, and obviously, as Gary said, that Councillor Bramage has said, that we've discussed this at workshops, and I find that we think it's a good idea.
Thank you very much. If there are no further comments, could I ask that you indicate if you're in favour of this particular motion? Deputy Mayor Edwards, Councillor Bramage, Councillor Courtney, Councillor Raw, Councillor Hyland, Councillor Johnson and Councillor Roberts and myself. Passed unanimously. Thank you. 9.6, workplace health and safety. There is a recommendation there, 2 parts: adopt the revised work health and safety policy with immediate effect and supporting principle recommendation contained in the workplace work health and safety review elected representatives. Deputy Mayor Edwards.
I'm happy to move the recommendation as it is.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Councillor Johnson. Councillor Deputy Mayor Edwards, would you like to speak to this motion?
No, I'm all good with that, thanks.
Okay. Councillor Johnson, were you wishing to make any comments? You're fine with that? If there are no further comments, are there any speakers against this motion? I put the motion. Could you please raise your hands? Deputy Mayor Edwards, Councillor Bramage, Councillor Courtney, Councillor Raw, Councillor Hyland, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Roberts and myself. This motion is passed unanimously. I think you'll be right. 9.7, our social media policy review. There is a recommendation there. Could I have a mover for the motion?
So
Councillor
moved.
Roberts, could I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Deputy Mayor Edwards, Councillor Roberts, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I think it's in good taste and good sense.
Thank you very much. Are there any further comments from the floor, please? Councillor Courtney.
I'm going to be voting against it.
Councillor Courtney, did you wish to add any information, or you're just...
I'm kind of opposed to the idea that councillors are going to be censored, I feel, on social media when so much of our lives and our representatives and who we are is shown on social media. So I know where this is coming from. And last year was a bit of a hard year for a lot of councillors around the state, especially our council, for a lot of things that went on social media. But I don't believe that a knee-jerk reaction to try and make sure that councillors sort of censor everything they say on council just in case they represent council or just in case they're perceived to represent council is good for democracy or good for freedom of speech. So I understand where it's coming from and I understand why it's important, but I don't agree with it, so I won't be voting for it.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Are there any further speakers for the motion? Councillor Roberts, you wish to speak?
I just want to put on record that I agree to some extent with Councillor Courtney. I believe that as humans and adults we can speak for ourselves, and I'd hope that people understand that our personal lives are our personal lives, but we also do have a position to uphold, and I believe that it's actually, with some of the things in the media lately surrounding other councils, it's probably a great preventative measure for us. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. And I think there is a fine line between the personal and the representation as a councillor. So anything that is said that brings the council or councillors into disrepute, and we have been down that track, I think that such a policy is necessary as a guide and to remind us of our responsibilities. Okay, so we will have a division. So, Councillor Hyland, sorry.
Yeah, to throw me weight in here somewhere. Like there is a fine line, but at the end of the day, you've got to be acceptable of your decisions, and there are consequences. You've signed on the dotted line to represent your community to the best of your ability. And I don't think it's that damn hard, really. If you wish to go off and be the highlight of the Facebook world, well, you probably shouldn't be sitting around this table. That's all I can say. So you just got to fine line, suffer the consequences, and I think it's a damn good policy. You just got to read it a bit more often so that it reminds you of your responsibilities.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Are there any further comments from the floor? We have a division, so those in favour of the motion, could you please raise your hands? Deputy Mayor Edwards, Councillor Bramich, Councillor Raw, Councillor Hyland, Councillor Johnson and Councillor Roberts and myself, and against Councillor Courtney. The motion is carried. 9.8, our quarterly information report, community and engagement. Could I have a mover for this?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Councillor Courtney, would you like to make
Page 77, Mrs. Mayor.
Mrs.
Page 77. So I realise this is just a report, but I note that there's a notation there that we were unsuccessful in a grant application. Just wondering, given that it was for new and innovative projects, and what this council put forward was bloody brilliant, and it was a new and innovative project. It ticked all the boxes, it fit everything that was needed, yet we see the Lark Distillery getting another, $1 million? I don't think this is fair. I don't think this is right. Is there any way that we can go back to the state government and say, can you please review that decision?
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. They're very strong words, and I think you will probably find that most of us will agree with what you have identified on page 77, and your comments are noted. Thank you very much. Are there any further comments? So, not Councillor, General Manager.
Through me, we have, just in response to Councillor Courtney's question, we have requested feedback in relation to the grant application. On Friday we received a response from the government. We haven't circulated that yet. However, the gist of the feedback, I've got it here in front of me, there was 331 applications, so a significant number of applications, and it was deemed that the independent assessors determined the purpose of the report did not align with the program's aims, and the aims are outlined in the grant program guidelines. So essentially that was the gist of the feedback we received. So we may need to clarify that.
Thank you for that, GM. I'd like to get some more detail on exactly where we didn't meet the criteria, because that's a load of bollocks.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney, for entertaining us this evening. Councillor Hyland, you wish to say something?
Yeah, well, I'm going to be a devil, but while we sort of get excited about going back to state government and doing all sorts of things, and when we don't get we get knocked back on a grant, you've always got to, in this game, you've always got to be mindful of what happened in the past, what you've done, what you've said, on all sorts of things. This council was offered $1.1 million to do a project up on the Cape. and it was defeated around this council table. It was a gift, $1.1 million. So then the staff had to go back and split that project in two, and we did manage to get the road, the car park, some of it, 330,000. So now we're trying to go back and do that one. So we just need to be mindful before we go kicking heads that, you know, we did have that opportunity and we're just coming around on a different angle to try and do the same thing. That's all.
Thank you.
I appreciate that, but I don't play politics. I go straight down the line.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Okay, are there any further comments? Councillor Roberts?
I'm like a broken record here. I just want to credit the staff for this, what we're attempting to do. Sometimes what we're attempting to do might not actually come off, but I'm very excited that we are at least attempting to do it. For anyone listening that wonders why we haven't done certain things, again, I agree with Councillor Courtney. There's great justification as to why we should receive this funding, and unfortunately sometimes we do not. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Are there any further comments from the council? Okay, we have a motion before us. So could you please raise your hands if you were in favour of this motion? Deputy Mayor Edwards, Councillor Bramage, Councillor Courtney, Councillor Raw, Councillor Hyland, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Roberts and myself. It is passed unanimously. Now we don't have a 9.9, so we'll leap over to 9.10, which is the annual plan update report, the 1st of July 2022 to the 31st of December 2022. The recommendation there is to note the annual plan update. Could I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Could I have
Madam Chair.
Councillor Hyland seconded the motion. Councillor Courtney, are there any comments that you wish to make? Councillor Hyland, are you wishing to make any comments? Are there any comments from the floor, please? No comments from the floor. So could I ask that you raise your hands to show your support for or non-support for the this motion? Deputy Mayor Edwards, Councillor Bramage, Councillor Courtney, Councillor Raw, Councillor Hyland, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Roberts and myself. The motion is passed unanimously. And Cradle Coast Authority Annual Report. We have a recommendation before us to note this particular report. It is noted as 9.10, so the numbers were wrong in the agenda. However, just as long as we're all on the same page. Thank you for attending. Could I have a mover for this particular motion, please?
Happy to move as it's recommended.
Deputy Mayor Edwards. Could
Happy
I have
to
a seconder? Councillor Roberts. Deputy Mayor Edwards, do you wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Roberts, do you have any comment that you wish to make?
Just that I'm thankful that Shane's on the board.
Wonderful. Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Any further comments, please? No further comments. Could you raise your hands if you're in favour of this motion? Deputy Mayor Edwards, Councillor Bramage, Councillor Courtney, Councillor Raw, Councillor Hyland, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Roberts and myself. It is passed unanimously. Thank you. Point 9.11 is Cradle Coast Waste Management Group Annual Report. Council is to note this report, so could I have a mover for this motion, please? Councillor Roberts.
So moved.
Could I have a seconder?
Second.
Councillor Johnson. Councillor Roberts, do you wish to make any comments?
Just that we've actually looked at this a little bit in our workshops, so even though it's absent of comment, we've actually had quite the discussion.
Thank you very much. Any further comments from the floor, please? I'll put the motion, so if you could raise your hands if you're in favour of this motion. Deputy Mayor Edwards, Councillor Bramage, Councillor Courtney, Councillor Raw, Councillor Hyland, Councillor Johnson and Councillor Roberts and myself passed unanimously. 9.12 Public Land Disposal Consultation Outcome 4 George Street, Somerset. There are 3 parts to this motion. Could I have a mover for the motion, please?
So moved. Madam Chair.
Councillor Hyland, could I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Councillor Raw seconded the motion. Councillor Hyland, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, it's we've discussed this to a great length, and the decision has been made to upload it, so it just needs to go to the next stage.
Thank you. Are there any further comments from the floor, please? Councillor Roberts.
I just actually want to state in regards to this it's a difficult thing sometimes being on council. People might think that, you know, we don't care, but obviously we do, as we've seen with Boat Harbour before. Obviously childcare is really important. It's in quite an issue at the moment, not for us, luckily, but around the coast. And while Puddle Duck has served a great purpose and it will be great to see it repurposed, actually having seen the plans for this again, I must credit the council staff. They are thinking forwards and trying to deliver the projects, and unfortunately sometimes we have to do things like this, so I fully support it. I just want that on record.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Are there any further comments? Deputy Mayor Edwards.
Yeah, I'm happy to go with the recommendation. The cost for the year for only limited amount of families using the service, and the cost to update. So, yeah, I'm happy to move with the recommendation.
Anything further from the floor? So the recommendation is that we note the outcome of the public land disposal process for 4 George Street following the 21-day submission period. Resolved to proceed with the sale via online public auction and authorise the General Manager to enter a contract of sale as appropriate. So that is the motion. For those in favour, could you please raise your hands? Deputy Mayor Edwards, Councillor Bramage, Councillor Courtney, Councillor Raw, Councillor Hyland, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Roberts and myself. This motion is passed unanimously. 9.13 Award of Contract 794 Boat Harbour Beach Western Seawall Replacement.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney.
I'll second that.
Councillor Bramage seconded the motion. Councillor Courtney.
Well, I don't think we need a lot of discussion. It's the awarding of a tender. It's under Director of Engineering. I trust Daniel. I know that there's probably best value for money and everything's above board, so I've got no issue awarding the tender.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Councillor Bramage.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, just a couple of questions, I guess. When we cart the rock down there, when the Hardings cart the rock down there, is there going to be a load limit on that road? How will it affect the road?
Thank you, Mr. Summers.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Look, we've had some concerns from people around the same and just generally with the Boat Harbour Master Plan and the expected construction traffic. We do historically have some survey markers that are monitored. There have been for prior to my time at council by Peacock, Darcy and Anderson, I think it is. So we'd made contact with them today to make sure that's continuing. That acts as a measure of any movement. So if we detect movement during the works, that can be picked up, I guess. So the actual size of vehicles that can use the road, that has been a concern in the past as well due to some of the tight corners and the like. So, yep.
Thank you, Mr. Summers. Councillor Bramage.
Is there a estimate when jobs like this start? It'll be through the summer, I hope, will it? Before it gets too wet?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Yeah, definitely. Look, we know full well that the hillside can be active during the wetter months, so that's the intended outcome. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Summers. Are there any further questions or comments regarding this? Councillor Roberts.
I just want to make a comment. Councillor Highland and I have the Boat Harbour Beach Master Plan Working Group, and again, I'm like a broken record. I just want to credit the staff again. They've done an amazing job. It's quite a vision, and I'm very excited for the community, and hopefully we'll get everything underway soon enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Can I ask another question?
Thank you, Councillor Roberts, for your positive comments. Councillor Bramich, I'll give you one more question.
Yeah, just one, only a little one it is. Just hope we can crib as much land as you can when you're reclaiming, please.
Through you, Mayor, I can guarantee Councillor Bramich that every opportunity has been explored.
Thank you for that response, Mr. Summers. If there are no further comments, or is there anyone who wishes to speak against the motion? Okay, could you please raise your hands if you're in support of the motion? Deputy Mayor Edwards, Councillor Bramich, Councillor Courtney, Councillor Raw, Councillor Hyland, Councillor Johnson and Councillor Roberts and myself. The motion is passed unanimously. 9.14 is the financial report for the period ended the 31st of December. Could I have a mover for this recommendation, please? Councillor Roberts.
So moved.
Seconder, please.
Second, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Councillor Roberts, is there any comment that you wish to make?
I actually attended a Teams meeting with our finance manager Sam Seal the other day, and I feel like we're in pretty good hands. So I'll leave that up to the experts.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts, for your positive comments again. Are there any further comments, please? Councillor Bramich.
I got no questions on this tonight, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Bramich. You're very constrained tonight. Okay, if there are no further comments or questions, I'll put the motion. Could you please raise your hands if you're in favour of this motion? So we have Deputy Mayor Edwards, Councillor Bramich, Councillor Courtney, Councillor Raw, Councillor Hyland, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Roberts and myself. Passed unanimously. 9.15 is the Senior Management Report. You are asked to note the Senior Management Report. Could I have a mover, please, for this? Thank you, Councillor Bramich. Could I have a seconder?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Raw. You just managed to pip the post there. Oh. Councillor Bramich, do you have anything that you wish to...
All good, thanks.
All good. Okay, that's fantastic. Anything from anyone else, please? Councillor Hyland.
Yeah, just one just popped up there. If I could just ask the GM. He met with a resident concerned about a driveway access and property accessibility.
Yes, I did, Councillor Holland. Yes. And Mr Summers has certainly had, I would say, numerous meetings with this particular individual. So we're working through I'll call it a long-standing issue around some driveways that need to be constructed and the location of such. So just clarifying those and working through, I guess, parking arrangements and so forth with, it's mainly one property owner, but it certainly affects 3 residences. So we are working through that with a series of meetings and so forth. And I think we'll reach satisfactory conclusion. It's just taking some time to do so.
Thank you, Mr GM. Councillor Hyland, are you happy with that response? Okay. Are there any further comments, Councillor Roberts?
I've just got a quick comment here where it says under corporate, we participated in a joint executive team meeting with Circular Head Council where the focus of the meeting was digital and IT improvements. It almost sounds like resource sharing works very well and is much better than amalgamation.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts, for your comments. It was actually a very good meeting. Are there any further comments that or questions that need to be answered tonight? No. I'm going to ask those in favour, please raise your hands again. Deputy Mayor Edwards, Councillor Bramich, Councillor Courtney, Councillor Rourke, Councillor Highland, you are in favour, thank you. Councillor Johnson, Councillor Roberts and myself, and we are passing this motion unanimously. 9.16, minutes of other bodies. We have not received any. We're at item 10, matters proposed for consideration in the closed meeting. I have a recommendation that the council resolves by an absolute majority that the matters listed below be considered in the closed meeting. Could I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney.
Seconded.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Okay, I'm going to put it to the vote. All those in favour, is there anyone against this particular motion? You are against the motion?
No, Mayor Duniam, I'm not against it.
I'm pleased to hear it, Councillor Roberts. I'll put the motion, so all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Anyone against? No, all right. Unanimous.